In this video, we're going to learn about Myanmar's military coup. Why did it happen and who is going to benefit from it? Myanmar is located here. Myanmar is bordered by Bangladesh and India to its northwest, China to its northeast, Laos and Thailand to its east and southeast, and the Andaman Sea and the Bay of Bengal to its south and southwest. Previously, the name of this country was Burma. After 1989, the ruling military government changed the name from Burma to Myanmar. The capital of Myanmar is Naypyidaw, and the estimated population of the country is around 5.4 crores. Myanmar is the largest country in mainland Southeast Asia. Some of the main cities of Myanmar are Yangon, previously it is known as Rangoon. If you remember the last Mughal emperor of India, Bahadur Shah Zafar, he was found guilty during the 1857 revolt, and the British sent him to Rangoon for life imprisonment, where he died in 1862. Mandalay is another popular city in Myanmar. And then of course the capital city or the administrative capital, Naypyidaw. Now coming to religion, 90% of the Myanmar population practices Buddhism, and that is how it becomes the main religion in Myanmar. If you are aware, Buddhism is divided into three branches: Theravada Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, and Tantric Buddhism. Theravada is believed to be the oldest as well as the most orthodox form of Buddhism. Apart from Buddhism, there are some who practices Christianity, Islam and Hinduism. And then comes the remaining population who practices other forms of Buddhism. Myanmar is rich in natural resources that include natural gas, petroleum, timber and valuable minerals such as gold, tin, rubies and jade. Now you may have a question, if Myanmar has so much of natural resources, then why is it counted among United Nations list of least developed countries? The answer to that question is, development of Myanmar has never been on the right way due to lack of proper economic growth, extensive poverty, military dictatorship, and prolonged civil war. In fact, in the early 1960s, Myanmar was the richest country in Asia, with wealthy natural resources. But then, it closed its economy to the outside world, and is now the poorest country in the region. Myanmar closed its economy because Myanmar was under the military rule from 1962 to 2011. It was only in 2010 Myanmar slowly started moving from military rule to partial democracy. And the reason behind that move was due to the increasing pressure from the Western countries. The US and many other Western countries had put sanctions on Myanmar while it was under the military rule. Myanmar military had no other option but to open Myanmar to the outside world. It was a case of economic necessity. In 2008, the Myanmar military had made the constitution. This constitution was Myanmar's military's roadmap to democracy. That is why you must have heard about this person. Her name is Aung San Suu Kyi. She was the State Councillor of Myanmar, which is an equivalent rank to a Prime Minister, and she was also the Minister of Foreign Affairs from 2016 to 2021. She was the daughter of Myanmar's independence hero, General Aung San. In 1991, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize while she was under house arrest. She was then released from house arrest in 2010. As I've mentioned, after 2010, Myanmar slowly started moving from military rule to partial democracy due to the Western pressure. That is how in 2015, Aung San Suu Kyi contested in Myanmar's first openly contested election, where she was part of the National League for Democracy party. Her party won the election. She then became a popular figure in Myanmar. She was compared with Nelson Mandela. You see, Mandela served 27 years in prison. Shortly after his release, Mandela was chosen as the President of South Africa. In Aung San Suu Kyi case, she spent nearly 15 years under house arrest. She received the Nobel Prize when she was under house arrest. She became the State Councillor of Myanmar in 2015, which is a similar rank to a Prime Minister. Although the Myanmar military accepted the partial democracy move, but they still wanted to maintain their authority and supremacy. Myanmar has a bicameral legislature. If you look at the lower house of Myanmar legislature, it consists of 440 members who are called the members of parliament. Out of 440 members, 330 are directly elected through the first past the post system, and the remaining 110 are appointed by the Myanmar Armed Forces. That means the Constitution of Myanmar allocated its military a 25% of seats in parliament. That further means that the Myanmar military has veto power over constitutional amendments. The Myanmar military is not only powerful but also extremely wealthy because they control a lot of companies and have links with industries such as jade and ruby mining, then tobacco, beer, and then manufacturing sector, tourism, banking, transport, etc. Last year, on 8th November 2020, Aung San Suu Kyi again won the general elections. Let me remind you again, she is part of the National League for Democracy. It is a civilian political party. So what happened was on 1st February 2021, she was arrested by the Myanmar military and put under house arrest. This is called as a military coup. The meaning of the word coup is the removal and seizure of a government and its powers. Now the question is, why did this military coup happen? It is said that the Myanmar military has accused Aung San Suu Kyi and her party NLD for doing irregularities and voter fraud. In simple words, the Myanmar military is appealing to the election body of Myanmar to look into the matter and inquire whether this civilian government, which is the NLD, whether or not they have won the election in a free and fair manner. But so far there has been no evidence of voter fraud or malpractice. It is also believed that Aung San Suu Kyi and her party NLD wanted to bring some constitutional reforms after the 2020 election, through which first thing they wanted to do was to get rid of military role in politics and governance. And obviously the military did not like it, because this way the military will lose its authority and supremacy in the country. And also the fact that 25% of the MPs were from Myanmar's armed forces. So to bring any change through constitutional amendment, the civil political party has to gather a minimum of 75% vote in the parliament. Only then any amendment or bill would be passed in Myanmar's parliament. Although Aung San Suu Kyi's party has the absolute majority by securing a total of 396 seats in the 2020 election, the party won 258 seats in the lower house and 138 seats in the upper house. To win absolute majority, a party needs only 322 seats, so 396 is well above the mandatory requirement. The main opposition party is the Union Solidarity and Development Party. It is believed that the USDP is usually military-backed, and the politicians in this party are former military generals. This party has managed to win only 33 seats, 26 in the lower house and 7 in the upper house. Needless to say, under Myanmar's 2008 constitution, 25% seat in the parliament are reserved for Myanmar's armed forces. As I've mentioned, Aung San Suu Kyi and her party NLD wanted to bring some constitutional reforms after the 2020 election. Apart from that, she and her party has also appealed to other ethnic local parties in Myanmar to come together to form a unity government. This was the first time that the ruling party had made such an offer. Another problem for the Myanmar military was that the opposition party, that is USDP, as I've mentioned, it is believed to be a military-backed political party because the MPs of this party are mostly former generals. Even they have voted in large numbers to remove the military veto power. In other words, in few political matters, these former generals were taking the side of Aung San Suu Kyi and her party. So all these three reasons were together creating a great concern for Myanmar's military leadership. Let me again tell you what all changes the National League for Democracy wanted to bring after winning the 2020 election. One of the proposed changes was to lower the minimum required percentage for parliamentary approval for constitutional changes. As per the 2008 Myanmar's constitution, 75% of the MPs have to be in favor of it. The ruling government wanted this number to be at 70%. The second thing is that Myanmar's parliament continues to be dominated by the army and former generals. So the civil government wanted to bring some constitutional reforms so that they can get rid of military role in politics and governance. So these are the main reasons behind the military coup in Myanmar. Now the next question is with respect to international relations. Who is going to benefit out of this military coup? Let's talk about big nations. India is in favor of democratic transition. India does not want to deal with Myanmar's military when it comes to diplomacy and politics. India wants a peaceful and negotiable civil government. This is also the reason many of India and Pakistan's diplomatic and political dialogues have never reached any satisfactory conclusion. It is due to the involvement of Pakistan's deep state, which is basically Pakistan's army. Political leadership cannot negotiate or talk with military leadership. Of course, both are necessary, but when it comes to cross communication, A cannot communicate effectively with B. A has to communicate with A. So India is in favor of Myanmar's democratic leadership. However, it does not mean that the Indian government is against Myanmar's military. Because Myanmar's military has often been supportive and helped India to crack down on northeast militant forces that have their bases set up across the Myanmar borders. India shares a long land border of over 1,643 kilometers with Myanmar, as well as maritime boundary in the Bay of Bengal. Four northeastern states, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur and Mizoram, have a boundary with Myanmar. Myanmar's military has been supportive and helped India many times. The IMBAX, India-Myanmar Bilateral Army Exercise, is a regular occurrence that brings both the armies together for joint exercises, operations and trainings. This is the reason India has maintained close relations with the Myanmar military even after the democratic government came into force. India has also supplied 1.5 million doses of COVID vaccines to Myanmar, even while the Western countries have put pressure against Myanmar's military leaders following the coup. The Indian Foreign Secretary has also said in a statement that India will continue to provide humanitarian assistance to Myanmar. So all of this says that the Indian government has actually no problem against the Myanmar's military leadership. But when it comes to economy, trade and development, obviously any civil government wants to talk to the opposite country's civil government and not their military leadership. But in India-Myanmar's case, the Indian government has chosen the middle way by maintaining relationship with both military leaders as well as the civil government. I hope you got my point. Now coming to China. Min Aung Hlaing, who is the current military leader of Myanmar, he has openly criticized China for supporting the anti-national armed groups like United Wa State Army and Arakan Army. These anti-national groups are basically terrorist organizations that are acting as China's proxies. They also supply weapons to militant groups in India's northeastern states. It is said that all these military groups receive training and weapons from the southern Chinese city of Kunming. These military groups travel through the Kachin state. It is the northernmost state of Myanmar. So these militant groups travel through the northernmost region of Myanmar and enter Indian territory. In fact, this northernmost region of Myanmar, which is called the Kachin state, it is occupied by many ethnic militant groups. They are designated as militant groups by both the Myanmar as well as Indian government. And the aim of these militant groups is to fight for independence or greater autonomy. China takes advantage of them by giving weapons and training. First, they give it to the armed ethnic groups in Myanmar. Through them, they supply further to the Indian rebel groups in northeastern region. In Jammu and Kashmir, how the Indian army is fighting the Pakistani proxies. Similarly, in the northeastern region of India and in the northern part of Myanmar, the armed rebel groups are supported by the Chinese, and hence they are also called as Chinese proxies. So the Chinese leadership has nothing to gain from this military coup, because Myanmar's military leadership is not that fond of Xi Jinping. However, if you are aware of China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, it is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, wherein China wants to reach the Indian Ocean, passing through Myanmar's city of Mandalay to the coastal region of Kyakpyu. It is similar to China-Pakistan Economic Corridor that connects China's western province of Xinjiang to Karachi and Gwadar on the Arabian Sea. By developing ports such as Gwadar and Kyakpyu, China aims to lower its strategic dependence on the Malacca Straits. Presently, almost 90% of Chinese trade passes through the South China Sea. This is the reason China is making more economic corridors like CPEC and CMEC by doing debt trap diplomacy. So what I'm trying to say is that the Chinese leadership has been very cordial with Myanmar's Aung San Suu Kyi's democratic government. Last year together they have signed many deals in areas such as politics, trade, investment and communication. In fact, many people in Myanmar, especially the youth, are protesting because they feel China is involved in supporting Myanmar's military coup. However, it is difficult to see any angle as to how China can benefit from this coup. As I've said, China had solid relations with the civil government. China also stood by Aung San Suu Kyi's government when it faced international backlash over the crackdown on Rohingya Muslims. So in many ways, the relationship between China and Myanmar has been stable under Aung San Suu Kyi's leadership. So I don't think a military coup in Myanmar is in China's interest. In fact, China needs Myanmar to be a normal and stable country. Only then China can succeed in its economic and strategic plans. Now that's a whole different matter if China is holding a secret friendship with Myanmar's military leadership. Only time will tell. And if it is true, then India will know about it and respond accordingly. As of now, India is silent on this issue. And it also wants to remain neutral because it has friendly relations with Myanmar's civil government as well as the military leadership. So as of now, it looks only the Myanmar military has everything to gain. Myanmar's military is also known as the junta. They want to maintain their supremacy and authority in the country. As I've mentioned earlier, that the civil government wants to bring constitutional reforms that would include getting rid of the military rule in politics and governance. So obviously this is not acceptable to the military leadership, and that is why they overthrew the civil government. Now Myanmar's military is using a state of emergency to take control for 1 year, and it has also promised to hold fresh elections afterwards. Now what about the Western countries? They have nothing else to do other than imposing sanctions on Myanmar. And I think President Joe Biden has said in a statement that the US will reinstate sanctions on Myanmar if the country's military does not stop all of this. And I believe Canada and United Kingdom has also imposed sanctions on Myanmar. See, Canada usually follows whatever United States say. Now the reason United Kingdom has imposed sanction is because Aung San Suu Kyi's late husband was a British citizen. Basically, she married a British citizen, so her children are also British citizens. I don't have any idea whether she has dual citizenship or not. Anyhow, as she married a British citizen, that is why she was not made the president of Myanmar. She was made the state councillor of Myanmar. A new position was created for her. Also the fact that Aung San Suu Kyi has close relation with the British Parliament. So anyhow, that is the reason behind UK's sanction on Myanmar. But I don't think Myanmar's military leadership cares of US sanctions or any other Western country's sanctions. Even during the Rohingya crisis, the West collectively condemned the actions of Myanmar's military, and in return, Myanmar did not care about it. And there is a reason for that too. As we all know, two big countries, that is India and China, both are neighbors of Myanmar, and they both hold neutral views towards Myanmar's civil as well as military leadership. And I don't think so Myanmar as a country has huge ambition of becoming a superpower. That is why they don't care what the West thinks about them. As long as India and China, the two neighbors, benefit Myanmar, and Myanmar is beneficial for them, that's all as a country Myanmar needs. So let's see what happens with time. Alright then, that was everything you had to know about the Myanmar's recent military coup. I hope you found this video informative. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I will see you in the next one.